to move on to the final one that's around this collaboration, and Lauren, you're speaking my language when you say that we should let people teach us what they know and then steal it from them, because I think both of these first steps require a bit of openness, don't they, and a real acceptance of other people's ideas. And I think this hack that you're about to share is perfectly aligned to that.
Absolutely. And yeah, you're bang on when it comes to that. It does require a little bit of courage and a little bit of vulnerability to acknowledge that you're not the expert in everything. But if you tap into, the knowledge that your organization's experts have, you can encourage them to share what they know with you, and you can start capturing their insights, which is great for the content because, like Neil was saying, we're engaging with those stakeholders directly. We know the language that they're using, but the rapport and the goodwill that you get on top of that, it just gives you so much valuable content and that organization learning. When I first started in my first learning and development role, I read this stat to say that up to 70% of most organizations' training content is produced outside of the learning and development department. And that can either be terrifying, or it can be this huge sense of relief to say, okay, I don't have to know everything. I can accept that I work with a lot of very smart people that are experts in the things that they do. And all that I need to do, all that learning and development needs to do is basically be like the Robin Hood of skills. We seek out the people that have got a lot of it, and then we take it, we redistribute it, we make sure that the people that need it most have got access to it.
Stealing from the people that are rich in knowledge and skills and then giving it to everyone else.
Yeah.
Before we bring in the others, I wanted to ask you what you've seen work with that, because personally I've found that getting people to jump on maybe a Zoom call, recording it, and just having like a free-flowing thing that doesn't take that much time, can be redistributed in other ways, or even the lowest friction one of just getting people to record the Loom videos of what they know. How do they go through a process? What are their best tips? But I'm curious if you've seen anything work particularly well in terms of capturing that stuff in a way that helps you reuse it.
Yeah, absolutely. So for context, when you introduced me as the Learning and Development Manager at Human Force, the full title is at Human Force, formerly at IntelliHR. So during the last kind of 6 months, there's been a few different mergers and acquisitions into the Human Force fold. And what we've ended up with is, a little bit over 250 people with 4 completely different products, and people that don't necessarily know each other work together, talk about what we do all day long. And so to help everyone understand what we do, and to have a sensible conversation with somebody who says, oh, Human Force, what do they actually do? I was in charge of making this onboarding video. And so I ended up having 27 separate conversations with people over the course of a month, asking them some really dumb questions. And I kind of introduced it to them to say, hey, will you sit down with me for 20 minutes? I want to ask you some really dumb questions about, what does the thing that you make do? Why do customers like it? Why is it special? And every single one of those people had a bit of just treasure to share with me. They weren't all super excited about it. I had to really work to create that level of trust and that safe space that they felt that I'd listen to them. But there was just so much gold in there, and the authentic passion that all these people had. All I had to do was then, stitch it all together, put it in a video that goes for 10 minutes and put it in front of the rest of the business. We have this amazing onboarding video now that people are proud to watch, and they get really excited about it. So, goodwill, engagement, learning saves me a lot of time. And I didn't have to explain all these 4 different things in a very boring video, just me talking.
Yeah, I love that. And you've got people involved then in the final output, people for a connection to what you do as a learning function. So yeah, I really like that idea. Sam, did you have any thoughts on this idea of how you can capture the best gold from people and then redistribute it to everyone else in the business?
I think my first point on this is such a good point to be talking about, because it's very easy to feel in learning and development like you want to be the gatekeeper of all knowledge sharing, of all kind of learning, of all content that people are going to acquire some sort of kind of development from. And it's almost like it's your role. If it's happening somewhere else, then you're not doing your job properly, because you should have been instigating it, right? And it's very easy to start feeling threatened. But what we've got to remember is, in the UK, I'm not sure what the stats are everywhere else, but 99.9% of businesses in the UK are classed as small businesses. and the vast majority of those won't have any learning and development people in them, and they're all doing perfectly well without us, right? So I think that you're absolutely right. It's about how do we take the knowledge and the skill, and how can we do a better job perhaps of kind of sharing it. So I've worked in lots of startups and scale-ups where you'll find a Notion page which maybe 15 people know about in a company of 150 that has pure gold in it. So it's how do you, at the very least, how do you go to each department? So something I've done before is go to each kind of functional department or team and ask them, where do they go for their information? Where do they go for their information on, how to get things done in this business, on, general stuff about their team, all that kind of stuff. And they'll pretty much always have a Notion or a Google Drive or whatever it is. And actually just simply kind of collating and kind of curating some of that stuff and just making it easy and for other people to access it and see it. Sometimes that's all our job needs to be, right? And kind of communicating it. So that's something that I've done in the past that's worked quite well.
Yeah, I've seen that in some reports lately that basically almost a third of people wait days or longer to get the information they need at work. And a big part of that, like you said, is that there's just these unawareness of where something lives or added friction to get to it. So I think sitting down, understanding where it all lives is sort of the key message there, and then being the facilitator of those relationships. Neil, did you have any thoughts on this as well? I know it's probably a common problem you've seen when you've worked with people as well, about getting that knowledge to people and consolidating it in a single place as well.
Yeah, and it's pretty consistent whether or not it's kind of 30-person startup right up to an enterprise. Like, where do we go to find out what we need to know? Just some really simple things we've put in place before, like GitHub pages, Teams groups, Slack channels, and then finding out who within the business, if not full-time, could almost be a knowledge holder for those channels, and then setting a clear expectation about what each channel does. So Slack's like super informal, Teams like a bit more informal, GitHub is where you go for your absolute, like, here's the end piece knowledge of this. And then just setting expectations about how those are supposed to be used can be pretty effective.
Yeah, I like that. It's about tapping into that existing behavior, what people already do. I always think that with like YouTube moderators, people use them, they often do it for free, give up their own time, but it's because they're going to be in that place anyway, passionate about that channel, passionate about that thing. So maybe I guess it's a similar thing in the workplace. The data will point you to the people that are the most frequent contributors on a platform or on a particular format or topic, I guess. So maybe it's a case of getting that existing data.